Hello and welcome to our first episode for getting known to Google Cloud and starting with Docker and CloudShell. So today we will learn how we can create a Docker container and publish this Docker container running in AppEngine in no time, and we don't even have to leave our browser environment, because we will learn a little bit about CloudShell and how we can utilize it to manage our deployments and manage our code and work remotely. The only thing that you need is a browser. So I already logged into my GCP account, and I will now start up the CloudShell. So to activate CloudShell, there's a small button in the top bar which tells you activate CloudShell, and with CloudShell you get a small VM which is persistent as long as you wouldn't leave it for more than 30 days unattended. So the session storage that you have, or the storage that you have there, and all the files that you have there will be there for 30 days and even more, but it is required that you log at least once in every 30 days. The cool thing is it comes with a cool editor, so if we open it in a new window, it will connect to your VM automatically, and you can also say I want to have, with this editor you have an online editor with small syntax highlighting and auto completion, so you can basically work inside of your VM directly. So the first steps that we will go is, I created already a folder and I will check out the repository that we will use throughout the series, and it is public available out in GitHub, and you will find all the necessary information in the video description. And we will now change into the folder that we already created, call it Cloud Tutorials, and there we will check out our repository. So we will say git clone and clone it directly from GitHub. And now you can see, okay, we have the folder, so we can go into the folder and we see all of the files that are there. And the cool thing is, with the editor that we have available here, we see all of the files already in our application. So we see it's a Node.js application, we have the syntax highlighting for JavaScript, and basically it's an Express app which tells you, hey, cool, there is Express running in our system. So the first thing that we will use now, or we will go there step by step, and for this we will reduce all of the files a little bit so that we can work them out together. Inside of the repository you will find all of the files already. And now I reduced a couple of files here. So as we now have known it is Node.js application, we want to see if it runs locally. So we say npm install. The good thing is Node.js and a couple of other tools are already present on this VM, and you don't have to bother about installing them, which is pretty neat. So because it's an npm package, we already installed the dependencies, and we can say usually something like npm test to see if the application itself is working. Okay, we see it's got a couple of routes and the tests are working fine. So now we say npm start, which should start the application locally. So there's no success message for this, but the cool thing is we can have a look what it's doing. So if we look into the package.json, we see, okay, the start script runs node in bin ww, and we can see here, okay, the application is starting at port 8888. The good thing is there's the option for web preview, so we can now say I want to preview my server or my VM machine on the web. So I can say I want to preview it in port 8888, and it's working. We see Express. Welcome to Express. And now we can edit something that would change, for example, what it's saying. And for this, we open the layout file and we say, oh, it's using a variable. Okay, let's just have a look into our routes, and it's the index route, and change something like, yeah, we want to say cloud tutorials. Alright, so we stated it, or we saved it, and we say npm start, and we can refresh the page, and it says Cloud Tutorials, welcome to Cloud Tutorials. This is amazing. So you don't need any local environment, you can just do it inside of your application itself, which is pretty neat. And we see, okay, there was a call. Alright, so far so good, but we want to run it permanently, and the easiest way to do this is with the help of Docker. Docker is containerization of your application. There are many how to readmes on this, and we will focus in this session on how do I create a Docker container and get it up and running in our AppEngine environment. To do this, it's pretty simple. For the first step, we can first check if it's working. So we can say docker run hello world, and it's pulling an image, and it says to me, alright, cool, hello from Docker. This message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. So Docker is now running on, or Docker is already running on this machine. So this is amazing. To have it working in our code, we need a new file which is called Dockerfile. And you now see, okay, cool, we have now our Dockerfile up and working. For this, we can now say, okay, I want to have it from a specific image. So all of the Docker files come from several images. So we can say, okay, I want a from, and not the base image, but I want node, and I want it from the version of Wheezy, which is pretty amazing. As you can see, you all also have here the auto-completion to how do you on writing Docker files. Alright, so and now we have to do what it shall do. So we want to have a new folder created where our application code will come in. Okay, so we say run, which runs a command inside of the container when it's building it. mkdir to create a directory, to create the whole path, and we want to say user source app. There we want our application to go, and then we can say work directory. Work directory means it's changing to this directory, and from all commands that come below it will now work relatively from this directory, and we want our work directory in the same path that we just created. So we say work directory user source application, and now we want everything that we have in our directory where our Docker file is placed to be copied into this path. Also, we need to run npm install in there. And the good thing is, why I know that it's using that npm is available is, yeah, because I used the image for Node.js. And the good thing is, I can click on this, and it's directly opening up the path to the Docker Hub, where you can see what image you just used. And there's a bunch of other images that are available for Node.js. we will get at some point to using a smaller image that don't have all of the things installed. For this, for example, we use Alpine. Alpine is a Linux distribution that is very small and that is often used for containers because it's not implementing so much of the Linux environment itself, so that it's kept really small, but it runs nevertheless. So let's go back to our Cloud Shell. Now we can run npm install, and with npm install it installs all our dependencies, and we also want to expose a port, and which is 8888, the port that we tested it, and we want to, the command is to what shall be done in the end. So we want to say, okay, I want to run npm start to run our application. Alright, that's it. So we will now just test this. So we can say now docker build to build the image, and we can give it a tag. So we can say what will the name be. So we name it, let's name it node app. And now it gets a name, and we need to say where shall it be built, and we want to build it from our relatively path that we are currently in. And here we go. What it's now doing is it's downloading the packages that he needs, and it's building through all these steps that we have here. And you can see when we go up, it says npm install, and it exposes the port, and it runs npm start. What was really fast and can take some time on your machine when it's pulling the base image. Because when it's pulling the base image, this takes a little bit of time because it's downloading the image to your local machine. So when we are here now, we have now our Docker image. So if we say Docker images, you see there's the Hello World app that we downloaded, and our Node app. It's pretty large with 550 megabytes. So what we can do now is we can now start this application. To start this application, we can now say docker run, give it a name again, which is again Node app in our case, and we want to run it as a daemon, which means it will run in the background and so that we don't see the container itself. And we want to expose the port, so we want that to export our port 8888, which will be exposed by the container itself, to be forwarded so that the machine where Docker runs on also gets this port. And also we need to say which image we want to start, and to say which image we want to start, we now say Node app, because this is the way how we tagged this thing. And you can now see, okay, something has happened, and we can see Docker PS, and you see our application is running with the command npm start. And as you can remember, we still had our application running on 8888, and if we refresh here, it is now running without our npm command but with our Docker command. So we have now a Docker container running on our Cloud Shell environment. So far so good, but how do we get it into AppEngine? We now let the Docker container run on our Cloud Shell, and now we want to run it on AppEngine. And there's an easy way to do this. The easy way is we just need to create a file called app.yaml, and there we can configure it where it shall run into our app engine. To do this, it's pretty easy. We can now say, oh, we need a new file. Either way, we say create it there, or we say touch app.yml, and we have now a YML file. Inside of this YML file, we need now to configure how the service will look like. So we say runtime is custom because we want to run it. We want to run a Docker image, and the environment is flexible because it's Docker. All right, so we can now name this thing. So we can say service will be, let's call it Node app. And with the service called Node app, we can now say network. And in network, we need to forward the ports. Why do we do this? Because our application runs on 8888, and we want the people to be forwarded to this port so that they can just call the AppEngine URL. So we can now say forwarded ports, and the forwarded ports is basically a list because you can have multiple forwarded ports, but we want to say 8888 TCP shall be forwarded. Now that we have finished all of the information that we need to run our app, actually, we can now say we want to define a couple of more parameters, like resources. In resources, we can define how much our application actually needs to be running. So we say, oh, we only need 1 CPU, and the memory, this is okay when we have only 1 GB. Also, the size is fine in GB with 10, which is, by the way, the minimum for the instance. So now that we have this finished, we can say gcloud app deploy, which runs the deployment to our app engine, and it tells us everything again and where it will be deployed, and we can say yes, I do want to deploy this. Alright, and to find the information that you need is you go to the compute, and there you see the app engine information for your account. So we can say dashboard, we can go to the dashboard, and then we will see all the information for our app engine, and we see there's a Node app that is currently being deployed. If we open it, it's not yet running. Why is it not yet running? Because it's still installing. The information was created before, however. And here we see now it's running the Docker file, and we will get back shortly as soon as the image is published and the service is up and running. And now that it is finished, we can see that it is available there, and if we go back to our services, we can click on a link and it opens up, and we see our application is actually deployed and it is running on the Google App Engine. One more information, there's always a default project, and to turn it down, you can delete the services, but what you cannot do is you cannot delete the default service. However, you can actually go to versions and select the default service and check the checkbox, hit stop, and then it will stop all of the instances, and you won't get charged for any instances because they are not running anymore. But we can see here in the Node app we have we have 2 instances for our application running, and which is serving, oh, not this one, but this one, directly from AppEngine, which is pretty neat. Also, I will put in some information for the documentation and where to find it in the video description down below. If you have any questions, write them in the comments. If you have any remarks, write them in the comments, and we will see each other again soon when we take a look at Cloud Build and how we automate the building process for our images and that they get pushed to the registry so that we can use them either in a computer engine or we can use them for our Kubernetes cluster for automated deployment. Hope this helped you a little bit, and we see each other again. Goodbye and have a nice day. Bye.